I dedicated 12 years to the family business, which my father then transferred to my sister and her fiancé. When they subsequently left him, he sought my assistance. At 36, I was dismissed from the firm my father had established just 8 months prior due to a background issue. I have been associated with the family firm for nearly 12 years. My grandfather on my father's side established a jewelry business that we own. It was passed down to my father, and I anticipated inheriting it next. After all, I am the older sister and have been interested in business since my teenage years. My father always told me that he expected me to someday take over the firm. My sister, age 33, never expressed any interest in a career. Her sole aspiration was to marry and have children. Consequently, it was assumed that I would be the successor to the family business. This expectation was widely accepted, although there was no formal documentation to support it. I should have prepared for such a scenario. For 12 years, I served as my father's personal assistant. I quit my first job after 2 years to gain practical experience before joining my father's firm, not wanting to appear entitled. However, upon my father's request to work for him, I was dismissed in favor of my sister and her wealthy fiancé. My sister had not been a part of our family for the past 15 years. She committed several egregious actions, leading my parents to sever ties with her. Upon reaching the age of 18, she declared her intention to forego college in favor of self-discovery. This decision was met with disapproval by her parents, who presented her with an ultimatum: either attend college or leave. Despite her parents' objections, she chose to leave and reside with her partner at the time. Their relationship concluded after a brief 6-month period. She then appeared at our doorstep, begging to be readmitted into our family. Prior to her departure, she had informed my parents numerous negative things, including her belief that she no longer required their support and that she would fare better without a family like ours. She also claimed that we were not suitable for her because her boyfriend's family had a more financially stable situation. She had previously insulted and humiliated us before leaving. Upon her return, my father informed her that the conditions he had previously set forth remained unchanged. If she wished to rejoin the family, she would need to attend college and earn a degree, irrespective of her chosen field. Otherwise, she was to remain outside. My sister attempted to negotiate and fight her way back into the family, but my father was firm in his stance. She ultimately chose to leave again, vowing never to return. For the next 15 years, we only saw her at family gatherings and never communicated with her otherwise. We learned about her life updates from other relatives because she refused to speak with us directly. My mother and I attempted to contact her several times, but because we were on good terms with my father, she refused to speak with us. To her credit, she kept her word and never returned until my father chose to make contact with her again. During that period, she sorted out her life, but not in the way we expected. She never attended college since she wasn't interested. Instead, she lived with a friend for a period, acquired a job, and began working to support the life she desired. I believe that event helped her mature significantly. She changed jobs frequently, but for the past few years she had worked at an advertising agency. Our family kept track of her life through other relatives, and she was aware of our existence. The same family circumstances led to my father's serious illness a year ago, which threatened his life due to heart failure. The cardiologist warned us of the severity of his condition and the necessity for significant lifestyle changes. During this health crisis, my father chose to reach out to my sister to reconcile their relationship. By this time, my sister had matured significantly over the previous 15 years, and she finally accepted to rejoin the family. She came to see us alone, and we didn't chat much about her life because we were too occupied reminiscing about the past. She didn't want to make it all about herself, so she didn't reveal anything about what she'd been up to. The information we didn't obtain from her came from our relatives. We knew how she was doing professionally, but not much about her personal life. Anyway, she seemed pleased to be back, and we were all focused on the reconciliation of father and daughter. The reunion was profoundly emotional, and I was overjoyed at the time, unaware of what would transpire next. When she returned for a second visit, she brought her fiancé, which was a surprise to everyone. She informed us that they had been dating for 3 years and had only recently become engaged. None of us in the family were aware of this, so we did not learn about it through our usual channels. They had kept it a secret. The flow of information was not one-sided. Thanks to our relatives, she knew our father had some health issues, but she had no idea how serious they were. That is why she had not visited us sooner, and she felt it was inappropriate to announce her engagement at the time. After the situation had cooled down, she decided it was time to introduce him to the family, so she invited him along. He appeared like a pleasant guy, and I could tell he was wealthy. His clothes, watch, and shoes were all costly. I felt glad for my sister because it appeared that she had finally found someone who fit her expectations. He was financially secure, had a clear vision for his life, and had his future planned out. After speaking with both of them, we discovered that her fiancé, like her first boyfriend, was the son of a wealthy man who operated a fast food franchise. Unlike her first relationship, this guy looked serious about her, and they were clearly in love. I was truly thrilled for her and complimented both of them. I never anticipated my father or even my sister and her fiancé to make the decision they did next. However, after only 3 weeks of knowing him, my father believed it was best if they take over the family business. He contacted me one morning and asked me to come home so we could chat about something. I was at work running everything since my father's heart health had deteriorated, and I was essentially the boss at that point. Even though he hadn't officially resigned, I knew retirement was imminent, and I was convinced that I would be the next in line to take over as CEO. But that day altered everything. Suddenly, my sister and her fiancé were in the running to take over the business I had been running for years. Upon my arrival at my parents' residence, my sister and her fiancé were absent, but my parents were present, and they appeared somber. After some casual conversation, my father revealed a startling piece of news. Initially, I thought he was joking, but upon realizing his seriousness, I was utterly stunned. When I questioned why he would make such a drastic decision after just 3 weeks of knowing him, he stated that he had reasons but declined to elaborate. After much deliberation, my father revealed that he believed my sister and her fiancé would be better suited to manage the firm than I was. The final straw was his suggestion that gifting them the business would be a welcome gesture to re-involve them in the family, especially as they embarked on a new chapter by getting married. He envisioned this as their wedding gift. I attempted to dissuade him from this notion, arguing that a wedding gift does not need to be of such magnitude simply because the recipient appeared wealthy. Furthermore, my father had always assured me that upon his retirement, I would inherit the firm I had built my entire life around. Now, he was taking it away from me to give to individuals who had been absent from our lives for 15 years. I attempted to negotiate with him, suggesting we could become business partners, but he was firm in his decision. He believed that my sister's fiancé's father, who had previously established a successful business, would be able to expand our jewelry business twice as quickly as I could. Despite my pleas for a single opportunity, he refused to consider it. I was devastated not only by the loss of something so significant, but also by the realization that I had dedicated 12 years of my life to the business, only to be left with nothing worse. Despite my efforts, I had not yet won my father's respect. If he had truly acknowledged the time and effort I had invested in the firm, he would not have dismissed me. That was the day I resolved to sever all ties with my family, as I had nothing left to say to them. I had hoped my sister would advocate for me, but she also let me down. She and her fiancé eagerly accepted the sorcellery gift, which was essentially the culmination of my life's work. My sister was aware of my lifelong ambition to succeed my father in the family business. I had been discussing it nonstop since I was 13. She knew exactly what she was doing when she took that gift. She was snatching my dreams and transforming them into her own. To make matters worse, she took to social media to thank our parents for the magnificent wedding gift and then used the post to announce her engagement. The most upsetting aspect of it was that no one from the family contacted me after that. Upon leaving my father's house, I felt as though everyone had ceased to care about me. I felt exploited, and it seemed that the 12 years I had dedicated to the business had been entirely fruitless. Fortunately, I had sufficient savings to rely on. For the next few months, I focused solely on rebuilding my life, as everything had disintegrated. This occurred 8 months ago. Since then, I have initiated therapy to address my depression, recognizing the need to prevent its exacerbation. Upon seeing my sister's social media post, I felt nauseous and decided to block her. I also informed my relatives that I no longer wished to be in contact with my family and did not want to hear any news about them, no matter how significant. They respected my wishes and kept everything a secret from me. Consequently, I was unaware of my father's deteriorating health over the previous few months. My sister and her fiancé appeared unconcerned about the situation. It was only a week later when my father contacted me from the hospital. He informed me that he had suffered a cardiac arrest in the middle of the night and requested my presence because I had blocked his number. He called me using someone else's phone. Initially, I felt terrible, but then I recalled his actions 8 months prior, and my remorse diminished. Following that phone call, I made a commitment to visit him immediately. I put aside all my tasks and rushed to the hospital. Upon my arrival, my mother and father were present, but my sister and her fiancé were absent. This was puzzling to me, as I had assumed they were close, particularly since they managed the family business. I couldn't resist inquiring about their whereabouts to my parents. Upon entering the hospital room, I was immediately informed with regret by my father that my sister and her fiancé had both claimed to be too busy to visit. This was a shocking revelation. My experience running the business for 12 years had taught me that it was a profitable venture that required minimal oversight unless there was a serious catastrophe. Under my management, the business operated efficiently with minimal intervention. However, I was unable to ascertain the current state of affairs under their management. When my father mentioned that they were too busy to see him, I inquired whether they had visited him since his heart attack. He admitted that they had not visited him, despite his attempts to contact them. They had only responded by text, stating they were too busy and would visit after his discharge. These revelations were astonishing to me, and it was evident that my father realized he had committed a significant error by transferring the company's leadership to my sister and her fiancé. He expressed regret for his actions, acknowledging his guilt and sorrow for having forced me out of the firm despite my diligent efforts. He now seeks to rectify the situation by inviting me back into the family and business. He shared his heartbreak over my sister and her fiancé's absence from the hospital, indicating their lack of concern compared to his. He also revealed that this was not the first time they had failed to show up for him. In recent months, their visits had become less frequent, and they used to come every other day to check on him when his health began to deteriorate, but now they claim they are too busy with work to come by. This did not sit well with him or me because we both know no one is busy. It would not have been difficult for them to spare an hour from their day, considering their proximity to my parents' residence. My father remained silent at the moment, but they had crossed a line and he could no longer tolerate their disrespect. He wanted to reclaim his firm and entrust it to the person who truly deserved it, me. We discussed everything in the hospital room, and he formally invited me back into the firm. I was overjoyed. My father apologized for everything, and while I wasn't fully over it, I forgive him since regaining what I had worked for meant everything to me. If forgiving my father was the price I was willing to pay, the difficulty now is that my father had previously discussed this with my sister. He informed her that he wanted her to leave the business because he had discovered that while he had always cared for her, she had never been there for him. He couldn't stand the disrespect any longer, so he resolved to reclaim the company and give it to the rightful owner. He told her that they'd have to look after themselves. My sister was visibly upset for reasons unknown to me, and she attributed all her grievances to me. This morning, she reached out to me, expressing her anger and accusing me of being a terrible person, unable to comprehend how I could be so rude to her. I am uncertain about her erratic behavior. It appears there is something we are unaware of. She seems to believe that she has lost everything and attributes it to me. However, I believe she is solely responsible for her situation. She chose not to visit our father after his cardiac arrest, a dangerous situation. She could have taken time off work to visit him. She was the one acting selfishly, and now I am receiving what I have always deserved. 8 months ago, she had no difficulty accepting a gift she knew she did not deserve. So why should I turn my back on something I actually deserve? She was devastated, and I attempted to console her, but she abruptly ended the conversation. I am questioning whether I am the antagonist in this situation. I feel burdened by the constant responsibility of taking the blame and am experiencing fatigue. Am I being unjust by allowing my father to request my sister and her fiancé to leave the family business, enabling me to reclaim it? Update 1. I would like to extend my gratitude to everyone who has responded. Initially, I felt that my sister's criticism was unwarranted, but your feedback has provided reassurance. If strangers believe I am deserving of the business, I have nothing further to say. In my defense, I don't think I have to either. It has been a few days since my last conversation with my sister, and I have not received a response. The positive aspect is that she has not blocked me on any platform, which suggests that she is still open to communication. However, I cannot help but suspect that there is more to the situation than she is admitting. It is difficult to imagine that someone with a wealthy fiancé would act in this manner simply because they lost control of our firm. I believe that not everything is as it appears with her fiancé. Some of you inquired about this in the comments section of the original piece, but I did not address it since I did not believe it was important at the time. Now, however, I assume her fiancé's family is struggling financially according to what I've heard. His father's company has suffered considerable losses over the last year and has been unable to recover. I believe my sister and her fiancé saw our family business as an opportunity to sneak in and take over as a backup plan. I still don't understand why my sister reacted so strongly when she realized that I was being allowed to rejoin the company and she was being asked to step down. If her fiancé's family was still financially secure, she wouldn't have to be concerned. However, she was distraught, and something about the situation did not make sense. I have a hunch she will tell the truth shortly. Fortunately, my father never signed any agreements or contracts that would have legally passed the firm to my sister and her fiancé. That would have been disastrous. He remained CEO the entire time with them, reporting to him in the same position I had held. He had been educating them to take over, but it is now evident that this will not happen. I had a conversation with my father, who informed me that my sister is feeling quite sad. However, he cannot afford to worry about her sentiments at the moment. His primary objective is to transfer the business to me so that I can take control and manage everything. He's already working with a lawyer to create the required documentation, and I should be taking over very shortly. To be honest, I'm looking forward to the adjustment, and my sister's dramatic outburst can't bring me down right now. Greetings to everyone. It has been a few weeks since my last update. I am pleased to inform you that I have recently assumed the role of CEO at my father's jewelry firm. The transition has been completed, and I am now fully in charge. Although there were some challenges during the transition, primarily due to my sister's interference, the process is now over. My sister is not pleased with this development, and I can now confirm that my hypothesis was correct. Despite being aware of the precarious state of her fiancé's father's company, she and her fiancé sought to establish a foothold within our family business. They viewed the family firm as a safety net in the event of their father's company's failure. It was my sister's suggestion to persuade my father to reintegrate them into the family by transferring the firm to her fiancé. Unfortunately, my father fell for it. He admitted to me recently that he was not thinking clearly at the time. He was enticed by the notion that someone from a successful business family could manage the company more effectively than I could. Initially, my father intended to retain me in my previous role, but when I insisted on becoming the CEO or resigning, he became enraged. That's what caused the 8 months of anguish for both of us. Fortunately, my father's timely realization averted a significant disaster. It transpired that my sister's fiancé and his father's company were facing severe challenges, with their market credibility nearly obliterated. Although I had heard rumors of their impending failure, I did not fully believe them. I assumed that if something significant occurred, my father would contact me, and I expected him to do the same if I was aware. Unfortunately, neither of us reached out, which was a poor decision. My sister recently revealed the truth. She contacted me just before the move was completed, admitting that they needed assistance because they didn't know how long her fiancé's father could keep his firm running. She asked me for help. I told her I'd think about it, and I honestly don't mind hiring them. However, knowing their true goals from the outset, I can no longer trust them. That's what I'm fighting with right now. I want to help her, but how can I hire somebody I don't trust? I told her I needed time to make a decision, and she agreed to wait. Update 3. After careful consideration, I have decided not to hire my sister and her fiancé. Although this decision may seem selfish to some, I cannot trust them. When my father offered them the business, they accepted without hesitation, and for 8 months, they showed no concern for anyone other than themselves. I do not want individuals like that working with or around me. It was difficult, but I informed my sister that I couldn't assist her. As expected, she did not take it well. She came into my office the other day, threw a fit, and accused me of being callous and selfish. She even stated she regretted giving me the company back, which I thought odd because it was never her decision. It was my father's. Her assertion that she did me a huge favor by letting me take over the company was absurd. While I might have been able to overlook her actions, her words were particularly irksome. I reminded her that she had never shown me any favor, neither in the past nor currently. She had never cared for me, so she couldn't expect me to care for her now. I asked her to leave calmly, but she refused and continued to berate me in my own office. At that point, I had no choice but to call the police to have her removed. I am too occupied with work to engage in unnecessary drama. When the police arrived, she did not say much and eventually left. It has been a few days since the incident, and I have yet to hear from her. I assume she will leave us alone, but even if she doesn't, I am not overly concerned.